Here's something that'll do your head in. The company Toyota shook hands with years ago, the one they trusted with their batteries and their entire electric future, is the exact same company now breathing down their neck on Aussie soil. Same partner, same rival. And in June 2026, it came within 243 cars of stealing Toyota's crown. For as long as most Aussies can remember, Toyota has been the car brand you just expected to see everywhere. 23 years running, they've topped the VFacts sales charts. That's not a streak, it's a dynasty. On work sites, the Hilux is as common as a battered esky. It's the ute that's hauled timber, tools, and muddy boots from Darwin to Hobart, year after year. Ask around and you'll hear the same story. First car? Probably a Corolla. For plenty of families, it's the car that taught you to drive, made it through uni, and still runs like clockwork. Out in the suburbs, driveways from Perth to the Gold Coast are packed with RAV4s. Last year alone, over 51,000 rolled out of showrooms. That's 51,000 in a single year. Toyota's grip on Australia isn't just about numbers, it's about trust. Service is easy, resale is solid, and parts are never far away. For farmers, tradies, and families, Toyota's become the default choice. You don't really think about it, you just buy one. No rival has come close to shaking that position in living memory. While the world talks up electric cars, Toyota's boss Akio Toyoda keeps reminding everyone that there's more than one way to cut emissions. His multi-pathway pitch is simple. Electric vehicles are part of the answer, but they won't solve everything. That's why Toyota leans on hybrids, cars with an engine and an electric motor working together, no plug or fancy charging needed. It's a tech that's been cushioning Toyota from the electric rush, keeping them in the good books with buyers who want something greener but aren't quite ready to go full battery. For decades, it's worked. No one really thought the giant could be toppled. Not here. In 2020, Toyota quietly picked a partner almost no one in Australia had ever heard of. BYD, a Chinese company whose name barely registered outside a handful of electric car geeks. The tie-up wasn't about launching a new Corolla or Hilux. This was joint research and development, Toyota and BYD engineers, shoulder to shoulder, figuring out how to build battery electric vehicles from the ground up. Not for Australia, but for the Chinese market, where the EV race was already running hot. 2 years later, that handshake turned into something bigger. The two companies inked a formal deal. BYD Toyota EV technology, 50/50 owned, based in China, with a clear mission: develop electric cars, batteries, and all the bits that make them work. Toyota brought its badge, its reputation for rock-solid engineering, and its famously strict quality standards. BYD brought the batteries and the electric drive systems, tech that Toyota, the world's biggest car maker, was willing to trust over its own. That's not a small admission. For Toyota to lean on a partner for the electric guts of its future cars said everything about who had the real EV know-how. Hirohisa Kishi, a Toyota veteran, took the chairman's seat. Zhao Bingen from BYD stepped in as chief executive. Publicly, Shigeki Terashi, Toyota's executive vice president, summed up the mood. Put aside our rivalry and collaborate. Kishi added, "We appreciate that BYD and Toyota can become teammates." The question now was simple. With both giants in the same room, what would this partnership actually build? The clearest proof of just how closely Toyota and BYD work together sits in Chinese showrooms, not Australian ones. It's called the BZ3, a sharp-looking electric sedan co-developed by Toyota, BYD, Toyota EV Technology, and FAW Toyota, and pulled the covers off on the 24th of October 2022. This wasn't a badge job or a handshake for headlines. More than 100 Toyota engineers, some of the sharpest in the business, went shoulder to shoulder with BYD's team. Their mission: build an electric car for China that could go the distance, literally and figuratively. The guts of the BZ3 tell the story. Underneath, you'll find BYD's Blade battery, a lithium iron phosphate unit, or LFP for short. That means it uses iron and phosphate instead of nickel and cobalt, making it more stable, less likely to catch fire, and a fair bit cheaper to produce. BYD didn't just supply the battery either. The whole electric motor and the brains that control it, the electric control system, came from BYD's side of the fence. In plain English, that system is what manages how much power goes to the wheels, how the battery charges and discharges, and how the car balances performance with safety. Toyota's role was to make sure it all worked seamlessly, with their usual eye for reliability and quality. On paper, the BZ3 was a game changer. Toyota claimed a range of more than 600 kilometres on a single charge. That's Sydney to Melbourne, with a bit left in the tank. And on its first day, more than 5,000 orders landed. No small feat in a market crowded with new electric vehicles. But here's the catch. The BZ3 was never sold in Australia. Not a single one made it to our shores. For Aussie buyers, it's less about the car itself and more about what it proves. This was Toyota putting its faith in BYD's electric know-how, batteries, motors, and control tech when it mattered most. The BZ3 stands as concrete evidence of that trust, even if you'll only spot one on a street in Beijing, not Brisbane. BYD was a mystery badge to most Aussies just a few years back. Then, in 2022, the Atto 3 quietly rolled into showrooms, priced from $44,990 to $47,990 drive-away. Suddenly, the idea of a well-built, fully electric car that didn't break the bank was more than just a headline. It was parked in the neighbour's driveway. The Atto 3 didn't try to reinvent the wheel. It just made electric feel normal, roomy enough for a family, smart enough for the tech crowd, and priced so you didn't need to sell the jet ski. But BYD didn't stop there. The Dolphin hatch landed for city drivers. Then came the Celian 6 PHEV and the Shark range, taking aim at tradies, families, and anyone who needed a proper ute or SUV. For buyers worried about long trips, that PHEV badge meant something simple. A petrol engine paired with a rechargeable battery, so you could plug in for the school run but still fill up at the servo for a weekend away. No range anxiety, no drama. Wang Chuanfu, BYD's founder, called Australia a key proving ground for our global success. He wasn't kidding. By 2025, BYD dropped its local distributor, EV Direct, and started selling direct to buyers, cutting out the middleman, sharpening prices, and speeding up delivery. That move made the brand even harder to ignore. The result? In June 2026, BYD's sales had more than doubled compared to the same month a year earlier, up 131%, according to VFacts. Families, bargain hunters, and ute buyers started running the numbers. Charging at home versus filling up at the servo, upfront price versus long-term bills. The verdict kept coming back the same. BYD wasn't just an option, it was a serious contender. June 2026, the scoreboard. Every car nut and dealer in Australia watches is VFacts, the official tally of new vehicle registrations, not just cars off the boat, but keys handed over, plates on, ready to drive. That month, the total market hit 140,058 new registrations. Biggest month ever, and a real pressure cooker for the top brands. Toyota logged 19,124. BYD, 18,881. 243 cars. That's the gap. Not 2,000, not even 500. 243. For a brand that didn't even have a showroom here 4 years ago, it's a result that would have sounded like a typo if you'd said it out loud back in 2022. 4 years, not decades. Toyota's share of the June market landed at about 13.7%. BYD, right on its tail, at 13.5%. That's not just a win for electric cars, it's the first time a Chinese EV brand has come within a hair's breadth of Australia's number one. And every number is checked, double-checked, and published by VFacts, so there's no arguing the scoreboard. But here's what matters. A monthly lead is a photo finish, not a championship. 1 month doesn't rewrite decades of loyalty, or the profits that come from a deep dealer network and a reputation built over generations. Still, when a challenger can get this close, it's not impossible to imagine a new name at the top if, and only if, they can keep up this pace. For now, Toyota's still ahead. But the old order isn't looking so permanent anymore. Toyota's answer to the closest sales race in living memory was simple: more cars and fast. Within weeks of seeing BYD nearly snatch the crown, Toyota locked in an extra 10,000 vehicles for Australia, bumping its 2026 target up toward 220,000. That's not just a number on a spreadsheet, it's thousands of RAV4s, Hiluxes, and BZ4Xs heading straight to local dealers, ready for families, tradies, and anyone who's spent months on a wait list. The RAV4 gets top billing, defending Toyota's heartland as the go-to family SUV. The Hilux stays the backbone for practical buyers, the ones who need a ute that'll cop a beating and come back for more. And the BZ4X? That's Toyota's way of showing it's got a real battery electric contender, not just hybrids and promises. Sean Hanley, Toyota Australia's sales and marketing boss, kept his cool in front of the press. "We're certainly not panicking." And he didn't look like a bloke under siege. For Toyota, allocation means giving dealers the stock they need to keep loyal customers happy, backed by a trust network built over decades. It's a reminder that even when the ground shifts, the old giant still knows how to play defense. This isn't a white flag. It's proof the market's changed, and Toyota's not about to let history slip without a fight. In May 2026, a ship called the Zhengzhou pulled into Melbourne loaded with 4,810 new energy vehicles, electric and plug-in hybrids, fresh from Shanghai. This wasn't just another delivery. The Zhengzhou is one of 8 car carriers owned outright by BYD, purpose-built to haul thousands of cars at a time, not just for Australia, but for a global push. When you own the ships, you set the schedule. BYD picked the departure date, packed the exact mix of models, and timed the arrival to feed dealer lots right before the month's sales cutoff. No waiting on someone else's manifest, no begging for space on a third-party vessel. It's a level of control that lets BYD drop nearly 5,000 cars on Australian soil in one run, enough to make a dent in the VFACTS numbers with a single stroke. Toyota's playbook has always relied on a sprawling dealer network and steady allocations, but BYD's approach is all about speed and scale. The Zhengzhou's arrival wasn't luck. It was a signal. BYD is planning for Australian volume, not just testing the waters. Control over shipping means control over inventory, and it means cars in showrooms when buyers are ready to sign. Whether this kind of logistics muscle can keep BYD snapping at Toyota's heels, or even push it over the line, comes down to what happens in the next round of VFACTS. For now, the numbers are close enough to make every shipment, every delivery, every car count. Every sale, every shipment, every new badge, none of it's settled. The crown sits lighter than ever, and next month's VFACTS could redraw the map. In Australia, loyalty gets tested at the showroom door. Subscribe if you want the next chapter as soon as it lands.